beverage. A hop if you want to just bounce to my leverage. The evidence, as they say, is in the pudding. So show me the money like my name is Cuba Gooding.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Entrepreneur Stories. Today we have a treat for you. Today we have Peter Deering, the CEO and founder of Peak Design. Now, if you have never heard of Peak Design, let me tell you a little bit about them. They have ran 6 Kickstarters. In their last Kickstarter they ran, they raised over $4 million for a bag. They are running another Kickstarter right now, and in their first 23 hours of their Kickstarter, they broke $1 million in funding. They currently have about 45 days left, and they've raised over $1.7 million. So they kind of know what they're doing with Kickstarter. I personally am super excited for this interview. I loved meeting Peter and talking to him about his Kickstarters. When I was preparing for my Kickstarter, I kind of stalked their company, tried to learn as much as I could about what they did. And I did learn a ton, and that's one of the reasons my Kickstarter was so successful, because of them and everything that they've done to kind of lead the way for others. So enough of my intro. Without further ado, please enjoy this incredible interview with Peter Deering. All right, welcome to Entrepreneur Stories. Today we are interviewing Peter Deering, the founder and CEO of Peak Design. Peak Design is doing its 6th Kickstarter right now, which they are killing it with. So Peter, thank you for coming on the show today.
I'm pleased to be here, Joseph. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before we get to your Kickstarter, I have to ask you, what's your favorite thing to photograph or your favorite place to do photography?
Well, that's actually I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit there. Because it's true, at this point in my life, I have a beautiful 5-year-old daughter, and it's kind of a no-brainer, man.
Yeah.
You carry around a 50-millimeter 1.8 aperture lens, and you just get gold every time you snap that lens. So It's too satisfying for that not to be the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I have 4 kids, and my photo stream is just pictures of my kids, which I think is a win for me. It's a
win for us personally as fathers. Yeah. By and large, I'm not sure that other people really give a shit.
Not at all. Not at all. They don't care at all. But, I heard somebody say once that when they go to someone's Facebook feed or Instagram feed and they don't see pictures of their kids, they get like a weird. They think it's weird, and I looked at mine and I was like, just all my kids. That's all I have up there. That's all I care about in life. So I must be going to the right place or going in the right direction.
I think so.
So this is your guys' 6th Kickstarter, and I'm sure you've done a couple of these interviews lately. How much have you guys raised, like, last time you checked?
I'd be lying if I said that I didn't check rather recently. So I think we're at about 1.5. We should be closer to 1.6 million by the end of the day. It's a frequently checked item these days.
Do you have the app, and do you just sit there and refresh it sometimes and just see like how many new sales you've had?
I used to do that. Now I'm more just focused on it on the desktop, which obviously isn't the point of what you're saying. It's so much more scientific than it was back in the day.
Oh yeah,
that's what it was during the early campaigns. It was just like hitting refresh, and every time a new backer came, just squealing with joy. It's definitely a different flavor now of excitement, but the excitement is still there.
Yeah, so I was the second day of your campaign. You guys raised $1 million last week, right?
Yeah, it was actually hour 23. So we're touting what happened within the first day.
First 20. Wow. So I was watching your guys' video because I saw that it came up, and I was watching your video, and I was watching with my wife, and we were sitting there, and before we got to the end of your video, the number had gone up like $30,000 or $40,000, and we were just laughing. I was like, this is silliness. Like, it was like however long your video is, it was almost like $10,000 per minute of your video. And I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, that must feel really awesome. Like to just see that come rolling in.
It was it's funny. Like that's exact. It produces a giggling. I've never had an experience that's more inducing of a giggle in my life. It feels incredible. It really does.
That's so awesome. So 6 products. you've kind of you're probably the only company who's come back 6 times. I mean, maybe there's other ones, but they haven't had as much success as you have. One of the big things I keep hearing from people who run Kickstarter campaigns and they get their company off Kickstarters are like, oh, you have to get off Kickstarter someday. Why do you guys keep coming back to Kickstarter? What is it that pulls you guys back in? What value is there that you see that you've worked with?
Well, there is no kind of better repository for people who really care about peak design. This is the platform in which our diehards exist, and them looking forward to a Kickstarter, like they look forward to a peak design Kickstarter, and it's just the best way to get them. You could not capture the energy, the feeling, any of the mechanisms that don't exist in a website transaction or obviously like an Amazon purchase, or even like if we were to gather everybody that we could in a room in San Francisco and say, like, we're launching a bag. It's not global. This Kickstarter is a global phenomenon. It happens all over the world. Yeah. And it's just an incredible little online community. Yeah.
It is. It's fascinating what the reach of the Kickstarter has and how you can get something out there so well. My little campaign compared to your massive campaign, we actually had more than 50% of our pledges came from outside of the country. And a lot of them came from Asia, places I would have never been able to touch without Kickstarter. And so I'm always perplexed when someone says that to me, because I think, well, how are you going to find new customers? I mean, like, yeah, you can find them through Amazon, but why not do it through a Kickstarter? But that's just me, I guess.
We became an international company on the launch of our first Kickstarter, and like instantly, I had distributors calling us from all over the world, and I think largely because of that, we're about 50-50 as well, international to domestic. Yeah. And how great is that? I mean, there's 335 million Americans. Yeah. There's 7 billion people in the world. So
yeah, that's a big market to go after. That's to like think about it in that, like, those quantifiable numbers. It is kind of crazy how small America is, how small the market is in America.
Right. Yeah.
So I read this article talking about when you launched your first product, the camera clip. Someone asked you, did you think it would be that successful? And you were pretty confident that it would have been, because you understood the size of the market that you were going after, how many cameras were shipped out of Japan, how many people used cameras and such. With each successive product, have you looked at the size of the market before you've launched it? I know that a number of those were for cameras, but for example, the backpacks and the satchels, did you know prior to launching those, like, okay, this is the market size for backpacks, or this is the market size for X, and this is what we're going after? Or was it more of just kind of like a moving away from that, getting to more of kind of like a gut thing?
Frankly, it's there are aspects of it that are a bit calculated, but it's a gut thing more than anything else. It really, really is, because at the end of the day, like, if you can check the box of, is this a big enough market to go after? And if that's a resounding yes, then in my opinion, you don't need to do any more research. All you need to do is say, yes, it is. Then let's do it the best that we can. Yeah. I don't need to know that number exactly. I just need it. And frankly, the Kickstarter is an excellent mechanism for telling you how big it is once you've determined already that it is indeed big enough. Yeah. So we let that help us out on the numbers.
Yeah. So 6 Kickstarter, do you guys look forward, and I don't even know if you're looking this far forward, is it planned out that your company does a new Kickstarter every year, or is that just how it's happened these last 6 years?
It's more how it's happened. Okay. But we also really, really like it. Yeah. We think it's the right pacing for the release of a Kickstarter. We wouldn't want to do it too frequently, and we also wouldn't want to do it with products or projects that are not significant enough. And so that's important, and it happens that we've always had something that's worthy of people's attention each of these years. And I think that we'll have that for next year as well. Very hopefully into the future beyond that. Yeah. I have yet to hear any reason that is remotely compelling for stopping doing Kickstarters.
Yeah.
It's so weighed in the positive that I would be shocked if that ever came to fruition. Like, some piece of information which said, you shouldn't do a Kickstarter. I have no idea why that would exist.
Yeah. I mean, all those lean startup models or whatever the new fancy model is they tell you on how to start a company, all of them have that validation step, like validate. And I always think to myself, well, that's what Kickstarter is. Kickstarter is just a massive validation site for anyone who has an idea that they can put it out there and be like, oh, okay, yeah, there's $1 million in sales already. We have something.
Sure. It's one of the functions of Kickstarter, one of the important ones, to be sure.
Yeah, definitely. So you have a pretty big team. When you first started, it was just you, and now you have about 15 or so people I've read. Maybe there's more, maybe there's a little bit less. How have you built that team with kind of an eye on building the right culture around what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, we're almost closer to 20, and by and large, the litmus test is, do I want to hang out with this person on the weekends? And the number one quality that makes me want to hang out with people on the weekends is, are they going to make me laugh? I'm serious. Oh, am I still with you?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
That is, I know that sounds like an odd thing. Like, seriously, you hire funny people? And absolutely, that is like at the end of the day, we spend so much time with each other.
Yeah.
And if you can be around people who make you laugh, what greater expression of joy is there than laughter? And so I very specifically look for people who are going to make other people laugh. Huh. And of course, they have to be talented professionally. Yeah. And of course, they have to add those other things there. But I would say that that's the tie that binds our team together so tightly, is that people want to hang out with each other because they know they're going to have a good time.
Huh. So in the interview process, is there like a stand-up portion where they have to like get on the stage and like try to make everyone laugh? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, how do you gauge like humor in an interview? Because people don't really come in, there's not. I mean, how do you gauge that? I'm just curious.
But they do, man. But they do. Like, you can, in having a conversation with someone, there's a little, a little more tension and hype at the beginning. But if by half an hour's end, you haven't had a few like good yucks with this person based on something that comes up in the conversation, then they're probably not going to check that box. Like, how few, like, that's funny people are, it comes out pretty quick,
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, and the other way I've done it is that I've hired a lot of my very close personal friends whom I've known for not my whole life, but, many years. Some of those friends have been, I've kind of gone after them, and some of them have come after me, in positive ways, of course. And I love that. It's been such a joy to be able to work with our friends.
Yeah. So you got out of college, you went to work for a company, and I read somewhere you didn't think you were being an entrepreneur when you were being an entrepreneur. Like, were you just trying to make a cool product, and then you kind of like, oh wait, I'm an entrepreneur, I have this, okay, let's do this company thing? Or what, when you mean like you weren't trying to be an entrepreneur, what does that mean? I'm curious. Like,
it's like I didn't know that there was a roadmap that it existed. I know that sounds incredibly naive, and while I was young and naive, I wasn't stupid, or that not that anyone's implying that, but it's just like, I didn't know that there was a term, entrepreneurship, that even though I had taken entrepreneurial finance in my class, it's just like, I just wanted to not work for somebody else. Yeah. And I wanted to just start a business and start an idea. But I had no knowledge of angel investing or of venture capital. or really, the founding principles of these businesses. To me, it just occurred that, like, well, you should, from within your own means, which, I lived simply. I had, $30,000 saved up from my job. And I was like, yeah, I think I can get this thing off the ground there. Like, it's just my own time, my own mental energy that's going into this, and a few groceries. And then eventually, when it came time to throw down on tooling, which cost 17 grand, I went to my parents, and who are absolutely not wealthy people, a nurse and a firefighter. And I was like, hey, I'm going to need $20,000 more to get this thing launched. But I think that, and that's angel investing right there. Yeah. They didn't know they were being angel investors. Yeah. I didn't know that either. Yeah. I just might pay them back. And later that summer I did, and paid them back interest, which they didn't want or request or anything like that, but as a thank you. And like that was those were the founding roots of the company financially. And I did that all essentially oblivious to the whole industry of startup funding and like what a startup is.
Yeah. Wow. So what was it that caused you not to want to work for someone else?
It was a combination of having to wake up at 7 a.m. because I was a construction engineer, or not wake up at 7, get to work at 7. Yeah. And with the taste of freedom that I got when I went on my journey as a 25-year-old, I took 4 months and traveled throughout India and Southeast Asia and New Zealand, and I cherished that time. And a big part of what I cherished was that nobody was telling me where to be, what I had to do that day. Yeah, and I loved that.
No, that's cool. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. I thought I'd profoundly end that because I feel very strongly about that being the main rationale for doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. So it's kind of, it sounds like that freedom is what you were searching for, and how have you like taken that into your company and made it a part of what you guys do and like creating this freedom?
Well, the freedom culture exists big time. Yeah. I mean, largely because we talk about it, and but for me personally, we have meetings and stuff like that, and everyone's prompt and professional, but it's just a notion of like, be your own person, be the master of your own schedule, and work when you want to, from where you want to, and as long as you are properly principled and you enjoy what you do and you want to do it, the work will get done.
Yeah.
And so, and extending that same freedom and luxury and responsibility to all the people who work for Peak Design is, I think, one of the main things that promotes the extraordinarily positive culture at Peak Design. People are fired up about working for Peak Design, and I think that's the reason. Empowerment.
Yeah, that's really cool. So do you have people who like go to like Southeast Asia for months at a time, or like just travel while they're working, or do you like require them to be in the States? Like, or do you just want, as long as the work gets done, it doesn't matter where they are? Yeah.
And like, for instance, Dave, our CFO, took off for 6 weeks in Nepal, a year and a half ago. He wasn't working, but that's fine. Like, he made sure that, he had everything taken care of while he was gone, and he was going to be able to play catch up. And it's just like, Dave, you want to go walk the Annapurna circuit? You go do that, man.
Yeah.
We'll see you when you get back. And there's no change in the salary. Like, it's just living life, you know? And because if I want to take off a few months and do something cool and crazy and interesting, I want that freedom.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to lose my job because of that.
Yeah.
That's the amazing life and times that we're living in. The internet is everywhere. You can keep up, and you don't have to you just don't have to quit and uproot your life just because you want to do something cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, what is like the biggest benefit that you see by treating your employees like that? Or are we giving them that space? I mean, I know you talked about kind of like, it's, if you want to do it, you should be able to extend that to them. But what is like the biggest benefit that you see?
Trust and devotion. Like they just care. They care so much about the company, and we care about doing a good job for the sake of making the other employees around us proud. Kind of. I think that's the source of a lot of the hard work and attention to detail, and the long hours that people put in. It's like we want to do good for each other. We have this incredible family at Peak Design, and we want to help our family members out. It's a natural human inclination to want to do that. And so, performing well so that we can bring up each other. I think that's a big motivating factor.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you guys get together to come up with new products, it started first with you had this problem of carrying the camera around while you're traveling. What's like the starting point for a new product now at Peak Design?
Just living life, honestly, and thinking about it and sharing ideas very organically. It's not like we have a meeting like, okay, what's the next product going to be? It materializes. And then you have to but for it to succeed, it's not like it's a whimsical thing. Like you start talking about, you start a dialogue, and you have conversations in small groups and then bigger groups, and then like it's just this an idea that takes on a lot of like force. I can't describe it. Now the bags are interesting because those came about much in the way that we depicted in the first bag Kickstarter video. Literally, Trey Ratcliffe called us up and said, "You guys make the coolest camera gear. I've wanted a camera bag that solves X, Y, and Z for the longest time, and I can't find one. Can we make a bag together?" And a camera bag is something that we were well aware of, but had no plans of making at that time. But because of the power of Trey Ratcliffe and his marketing prowess, we're like, "Oh, what the hell? Let's make a bag." Yeah. And it was very fortunate that Art Vijay, our lead designer, has been an absolute bag nerd since he was a kid. And came into this very well prepared, and very well researched to make what is, by many accounts, one of the best bags that are available.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful bag. Your first one, even the ones you have now, are wonderful also.
Yeah, they are. They're all have the same thought, attention to detail, and this next line of bags, I'm so proud of these things. It's amazing. They're absolutely fantastic works. I'm so proud of them. People are going to love them.
Yeah. So when you work with people like Trey Ratcliffe and other photographers, I mean, is it like, oh, you have to talk about our company, or are you just like, hey, here, use these products, tell us if you like them? I mean, like, because there's a lot of companies that's like, oh, here, we'll give this to you. You need to post this many times a month about us on social media. You need to talk about how awesome we are. What's your guys' approach? Because you guys have a pretty big reach with influencers, from what I can tell.
We do, and the bigger ones have mostly kind of found their way to. Well, actually, I'd say most of it has been inbound traffic, sort of, like people coming to us, which is, I think, the way that it really needs to happen, because it's got to be organic. If they don't love the products, if they're coming to you, it's because they love the products, or they sense the opportunity and it's very real. If we're going out to them, it's just like, it's not set up to succeed that way, Yeah. And then how we deal with the varying level of influence of people who come to us, it depends on, we go through an evaluation period and say, like, okay, what's the power of this? It's an interesting thing, right? Influencers. And they were always there and existing, but because of the internet, they now have like quantifiable power. Yeah. So it's cool. And we definitely, I think we go about that as smartly as we can.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So as you guys are kind of moving forward, what's like the goal or vision? Like, do you guys have a goal or vision, or is it just kind of we'll figure it out as we go along?
It is to continue doing exactly this for as long as possible. Okay. And I hope that means our whole lives, honestly. Like, or and that's what we'll do until it becomes not fun. But I think for the people who work for Peak Design, this is the coolest thing we've ever been a part of. And, and we absolutely want to preserve that. And at the same time, you have to grow in order to preserve that. So it's this funny little dance of both growth, and maintenance of a philosophy and of a lifestyle. That at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, is maintaining a lifestyle that allows each of the employees to enjoy their time with family and friends and enjoy seeing the world and experiencing it. Like that is the gift that we can give to really ourselves, and our families and our friends. So we want to keep doing that.
That's really awesome. So when you look at Kickstarter and kind of your guys' place in it, I mean, how do you view your company's success in light of everything that happens on Kickstarter? I mean, you guys are one of the top finance campaigns of all time. You'll probably have this one will be one of the top ones of all time. Do you even think about that? Like, oh, we're one of the best ever? Or is it just kind of like, this is this great platform? Like, how do you relate to it, or how do you think about your company with Kickstarter?
Well, I think that I have nothing but respect and love for Kickstarter itself, the notions of crowdfunding. It's given us so much, and very proudly we tout the story that of all the companies out there, we're in a very small minority that has used it kind of as effectively as possible.
Yeah.
And that is just simply, it's kind of, it's just reading the stars as we go along, paying attention, and no one knew what they were doing. There was nothing premeditated. It's just been kind of reacting to the environment we see before us, and doing so with transparency and honesty and, fortunately with good ideas that solve real problems.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's cool. So I'm sure everyone's always asking you, hey, how do I run $1 million Kickstarter campaign? Because you guys have done so well and you've had such consistent success. If you were to give someone advice on how to start, not to just run a successful Kickstarter campaign, but to take a successful Kickstarter campaign and turn that into an actual company, what's the one thing of advice that you would give somebody?
2 pieces of advice.
2 pieces. I'll take 2. That sounds great.
Number 1, you gotta have a product that solves a real problem or provides a real benefit to an addressable market which is large enough and is reachable. Okay, that's like the marketing. That's like the product portion of it. Like it's about the idea. It's about the actual product. It's about the size of the market. Basically, we look at this thing, and that breaks down to conversion, right? Like how many people are gonna click on that page? What percentage of them are gonna go, "Yep, I'm gonna buy that because the money I'm gonna put forth seems like I'm getting a good deal for this." Okay, and that is like it's got to be a real problem that you're solving or providing a real benefit if you want it to be a big campaign. And then the second piece of advice is that making things in the physical world, by the way, this really applies to the idea of the type of Kickstarter campaigns that we do, which are product focused.
Yeah.
But the other thing is you got to figure out manufacturing first. It's not easy, and it takes a lot longer than you're going to guess it's going to take.
Yeah.
So you have to go into that with your manufacturing figured out before you launch your Kickstarter, not after.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. Very true. Very true. Well, we're running up on a half an hour. I know you're super busy. I don't want to take too much more of your time. So thank you so much for your time, Peter. Best of luck on this campaign. I hope you guys, maybe you'll break 5 million. That'd be kind of awesome, right? That
would be very cool, man. We'd be very stoked to do that. That's for sure.
Very cool.
Right on.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. I appreciate you helping us spread the word, man. We're very proud of what we do, and we wouldn't exist without the component of the things that you're doing either. And so it's very much appreciated.
Oh, well, thank you so much. All right, well, we'll talk to you later, Peter. Thank you.
Cheers. Take care, Joseph.
All right, bye now. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Please take a moment to rate us on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you. Have a great day.